Hey, I don't like this shirt. It looks like some old man's pajamas. But everybody's like, wear a different shirt. Why you keep wearing the same shirt all the time? You only got two shirts? Try to keep things simple. Can't make anybody happy. Yeah. I'll edit that out of this video. Intellect versus wisdom. Also to consciousness versus nous or chit. It's kind of very, very easy to explain. I work down the road here on intelligence versus wisdom. Talk about what's important. For some reason, well, I do. I mean, I have a large vocabulary, and I don't use big words to impress anybody at all. I mean, I really don't. Even if you hate me, let me assure you I absolutely don't. I think like this all the time, using words that people are very unfamiliar with, and I think a million miles a second on a lot of different subjects at once. I give no praise to intellect and no praise to IQ. Point out some distinctions, and it's the same distinction between consciousness and also too, there's some major things that Westerners are really, really, really confused about. They keep talking about reincarnation. Yeah. Punabhavati or palagenesis does not mean reincarnation, it means transmigration. Oh, well, I say, what's the difference? When you say reincarnation, every Westerner suffers from this ideation of the psychophysical persona non grata and the memories thereof. Bob, Sue, Larry, his experiences in childhood, blah, blah, blah. Well, that has a beginning in time and an end in time. And it is within a bubble of consciousness, or vijnana, yeah? In the ancient Pali word vijnana. Goes no further, has a beginning in time, and therefore, too, necessitatively must have an end in time. It goes no further than death. Time of death, of course, separation between matter and spirit, and that's what life is, and the third thing that makes it possible between matter and spirit, that being water, the interlocutor, or analogously, the antenna. You know, the soul would be the signal, the body would be the battery, and all the resistors and AD converters, and the third thing which makes it possible is this neat thing, which is the antenna. Consciousness and conventional memory. And of course, there's nobody on this earth that has ever postulated that water makes its way from one body to the next. Well, it could, like if somebody took a whiz in the toilet and the water were processed. But it's not part thence anymore of the radio. Imagine the radio were able to take a tinkle, lets its own water out. That's taking it too far. And of course, the antenna where conventional memory exists is within the psychophysical corpus, which of course does not transmigrate. Reincarnation is completely misunderstood. It's not actually taught other than seminal reincarnation. In other words, you give your genetic material and you might have a child that resembles you either to a greater or lesser degree, and you pass yourself on genetically. So that's a huge misnomer. That's not taught in the Vedas or the Upanishads or Advaita Vedanta or within the five Nikayas, but I'm not interested in discussing transmigration versus reincarnation. Rather, intelligence and wisdom, also to consciousness, which is consubstantial. It goes no farther than the bubble of life. Explaining consciousness, you can read 100 books to get an answer, which I'm about to give you here in a couple minutes. Analogously, would be like blue light from a blue filter, right? Or red light from a red filter, right? You have the white light, and then you have the blue filter, which is the second thing, right? And the blue filter or the red filter would be analogous to the psychophysical corpus of the body. And of course, that goes no further than the filter. At the breakup of the body, the filter is smashed, it falls away. That blue light is the consubstantiality, and it had a beginning in time and it had an end in time. It's consubstantiality between the white light and the blue filter. That cannot transmigrate, as in the Western misunderstanding of reincarnation. If you want to look up all the Vedic passages on this, there's a lot of them in a brilliant article written by Dr. A.K. Kumaraswamy. It's called The One and Only Transmigrant. You can find that article probably all over the internet, all over. And this is the locus of intelligence, empirical knowledge, episteme. And I do not confuse intelligence with wisdom. However, the entire Western world does. Unfortunately, in English, these three words, mind, brain, and consciousness, are kind of lumped together as one frigging thing. Mind in Sanskrit and Pali, chit nous, or Spiritus Sancta in the case of Latin, is a reference to the chit, or the nous, yeah, which is ab extra, prior to that blue filter or that red filter. It is not consubstantial with the psychophysical body, Bob soon layer, which we can imagine as a bubble. Time of death, the bubble is popped, poof, the red filter is broken, the blue filter is broken, so that conventional memory of like what you ate yesterday and your childhood memories. Now there is a reflection of that within the stream of chit or nous, and this of course we're genuinely, and of course this is taught in the Upanishads and the Vedas and the Nikayas, past life recollection when you actually are able to engage in THEURGY or apophaticism, the neti-neti, where you're actually able to roll yourself back prior to embodiment and actually pluck at and to and extract from these mirages within selfhood, the transcendent selfhood, beyond and above and antecedent to. Antecedent just means prior to. Antecedent to having a grocery cart. I was at home, which is antecedent to me going to the grocery store and picking up a bunch of groceries and have a grocery cart full of groceries, which would be synonymous with life. Life would be entering into the grocery store, piling in all these memories and recollections and stuff. And of course, you take the groceries home too, but that would actually be taking the analogy too far. Anyway, getting back to intelligence and wisdom, Vijnana, or conventional intelligence, or episteme, i.e. empirical knowledge, certainly goes no further than death. There still is a remnant reflection of that, which is where past life recollection enters into. And this is where, of course, the entire Western world is completely... They misunderstand karma, which just means action or agencyship, but one is not a karman or agent into and of samsara. Yeah? Think you're an agent. In other words, you're on the roller coaster and you're an agent to riding that roller coaster. There's no way off of it. The only thing you can do is worry about good actions and bad actions over and over and over again in perpetuity, but that, of course, is samsara, which samsara is basically a fancy word of saying a roller coaster, but it means to go round and round, sansarati. Samsara just means the round of hellish life and all the sufferings and slings and arrows, of course, of life. People worry about making themselves a light, themselves, i.e. the existential light, and these people are always evil. The most evil people, and I will remind you, this is not my position, if you think of any horrifically evil person in life throughout history, they've always been somebody with a great deal of intellect. None of them have ever been stupid. Now, stupid people are well known for doing evil and dumb things, but the great evil that's actually spread amongst others and where people want control over others, not merely to do simple, horrible, or horrific evil deeds done by dumb people who are quite often, not intelligent. The great evils are not done by stupid people. They're always done by, every time you hear most horrific deeds you can imagine, he had 20 bodies buried in his basement. Oh, he seemed like he's such a really smart guy. You got straight A's in the school. Oh, it's always the intelligent people. But these people are intelligent. They have no wisdom. These people want to make themselves a light of empirical knowledge, and they always falter, as they necessitatively must, and there's a really strong and palpably simplex metaphysics behind all of this. This is, of course, the root of intellect, which doesn't... It's like having a super powerful team of horses, but there's no driver of wisdom behind them. It runs roughshod over the entire land and all the people, and the great evils of the world have always been done at the hands of unwise yet highly intelligent people. In the case of intelligent people that lack wisdom, these are people that make of themselves a light in this world that's focused in and from the existential persona non grata, which they are. And these people make themselves talismans, but that's intellect. And it goes like if you get in a car wreck, for example, and your brain gets scrambled, you might forget who you are and, get your brain shaken up like a milkshake in a bad accident or a stroke or something it's gone. Poof. Oh, he used to be such a smart guy, but he had a stroke and now it's all gone. Well, this is true. It's people that, it's like building your house upon the beach sands. It'll last for a short time, but it'll soon be gone. The difference between intellect, and I made this analogy up myself, it makes it a lot easier to understand, it's intellect and the evil people that try to build up that intellect and impress other people with their IQ or their, oh my God, you're so smart. These are people that try to make a light of themselves, and unfortunately this is called egotistical, but that word is really nonsense, and it didn't exist until Kant and Hume and Nietzsche and some others actually popularized it. It eventually came around like the 14th century. Even ahomsthemy in ancient Pali does not mean egotism. They try to make themselves a light, and they try to make themselves a talismanic focus because they are incredibly intelligent, and resultant to their intelligence lacking wisdom, they're a talisman and they're a great evil in the world. Wisdom is something that shines through you rather than from yourself. People that have no interest in themselves or that thing that they see in the mirror, they want to be in line with natural order. That is wisdom. So when this thing which wisdom shines through, i.e. the absolute transcendent, the one or the agathon, I don't care if people call it God or not, it doesn't make any difference to me. These people want that to shine through them, but they want no focus upon themselves. When that falls away, they are still in line with that natural order, which is antecedent to the body. Intellect is trying to build up, it has a little memory, has maybe a meg of RAM in it for storing codes, your favorite frequencies and whatnot.
33 at Bristol.
Well, I could actually take this and pass it over a strong magnetic field, or I could hammer it, and the radio might still work, but the information on the RAM chip may be gone, which would be analogous to a stroke, and certainly so analogous to existential episteme, or empirical knowledge. You're a head full of facts. You're a great manipulator. Someone is really brilliant, knows how to manipulate other people. Say, well, he's so smart, he's got such a high IQ. That's not important at all. It does help you through this world, but these people, 5 times out of 10, are really quite evil. You show me someone with a great deal of intellect and no wisdom, and I will show you someone that is inherently evil. They might be really, really good at hiding it, but I can guarantee you there's like skeletons in their closet and in their basement. Every time. It really is. Just basically every time. There's no such thing as a highly intelligent person lacking nearly completely in wisdom that is not inherently evil on some level. And I don't make that statement, blindly or loosely. Wisdom is shining the light through oneself such that when this body gets damaged and the bubble must pop, which of course it eventually must, nothing is changed. One follows natural order to what is antecedent to that bubble, i.e. the psychophysical. Intelligence and empirical knowledge and vijnana, or consciousness, is one and the same thing. That is the seat or the bubble of the existential persona non grata, which not only has a beginning in time and an end in time, but also, too, is extremely fragile. Like I said, you could lose it in a heartbeat, in a stroke, or a car accident. I'm not saying this to be so-called egotistical at all, but I keep saying, oh, you're so intelligent, I can't keep up with the big words you use. I'm not pretending, nor do I've never ever sat down to make a video trying to impress anybody with any intellect at all. I have never ever had that thought, either subliminally or openly at all. It is not important at all. Wisdom is of ultimate importance. Intellectual knowledge is not important. Having a large vocabulary is not important. You discuss certain things like field theory, whatnot. I use specific words that people don't normally use, like constructive, destructive interference, conjugate magnetodielectric. These are not really big, these are not big words to me at all. I know they are to a lot of people, but I've never tried to impress anybody with any intellect. But that is not important. People say, what's your IQ? People say that in live chats. It's not important. I've never taken an IQ test. I have no interest in it. IQ does not test for anything important at all, like spontaneous thought genesis, common sense. Common sense is kind of a nasty euphemism for wisdom. It doesn't test for nonlinear spontaneous thought genesis, creativity, on and on and on, all the very, very important stuff. IQ is not important. Wisdom is not a group activity. Intellect is like, wow, who am I going to impress with my intelligence? Who am I going to manipulate with my intelligence? This is the evil of being intelligent. I have never been impressed by any intelligent person. I don't know why others can't, but very clearly and easily differentiate out intelligence and wisdom. It's very palpable. Maybe if, not maybe, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, that people are extremely confused. Well, that boy's got no common sense. He's got book smarts. That's what's conventionally said about people. Book smarts like empirical knowledge. His head's full of facts, but he don't know how to do nothing. This is how normal people talk, you know. Say, hey, boy got book smarts, he got graduated college, but and that boy's useless. He's useless as teats on a boar. That would be like a southern saying, right? He's got no common sense, and common sense is just a nasty euphemism for wisdom. I've said this a million times too. Wisdom is just a silly word to refer to self-proximity, and that's self with a capital S. Intellect and consciousness is based in the small s. The psychophysical would be like the memory inside this radio where the information is stored of like my favorite radio channels, for example. The small s is the thing you see in the mirror when you brush your teeth. That is the seat of consciousness. That is the seat of empirical knowledge. That is the seat of either impressive or unimpressive IQ. What's your IQ, boy? Who cares? I've never cared or asked. I've never asked what anybody's IQ. I couldn't care less. I can clearly see after a couple minutes, sometimes even less than a minute, determining whether someone is wise or intelligent or both, or usually intelligent and not wise, or wise and not intelligent. Wisdom is of ultimate importance. Intelligence is not. And this is the same distinction between consciousness and mind. And mind, unfortunately, in English, and consciousness and mind are basically the same definition. They're not in Sanskrit, and they're not in Pali, and they're not in Greek, but they are in English, unfortunately. Wisdom is just self-proximity. That would be the puppet master who identifies with the puppet master, not that thing that he sees in the mirror, which is his little puppet, you know. That psychophysical entity, which is full of consciousness, consubstantial consciousness. Consubstantial meaning made of two or more things, yeah? Life is the consubstantiality of matter and spirit, which requires a third thing, which is water. Water is the third thing that makes life possible between matter and spirit. Water being the antenna, spirit being the signal. Life would be the broadcast that comes out of the speaker, because the thing that comes out of the speaker is not the signal. That's the interpolation of the signal. Consciousness, IQ, intelligence. Intelligence has no importance. Since wisdom means, and it's not my opinion, it's a fact, means self-proximity. This means the light which shines not from here, but through here. Everybody else is kind of like muddy waters, right? You know, like say a body, a person, an unintelligent person, well, an unwise person, excuse me. An unwise person would be like muddy waters. And say there's a light at the bottom of the pond, right? Well, no, the light from above the pond, which is how it conventionally would be sunlight, right? You know, you got some frogs or whatever on the bottom of the pond. You know, they have to get to the surface to receive the sunlight. Wisdom would be self-proximity. Self-proximity would be complete clarity of the waters where the sunlight, basically all of it reaches the bottom, right? There's no muddy mess where, you know, you shine light on muddy waters. The only thing you do, you see the muck and the turds and the fish turds and whatnot floating in the water. Self-proximity. Wouldn't self-proximity be the light which identifies as the light and no longer as the puppet? The puppet in the mirror is the basis of consubstantial consciousness. It's the basis of intelligence, of IQ, episteme, empirical knowledge. Wisdom and intellect are not to be confused. And I kid you not, 99.9999% of the Western world, if not most of the world, confuses wisdom and intelligence. And metaphysically, they are two radically different entities. Not to be confused. I'm going to fill my head with a lot of facts. It's like, good. You'll score really high on an IQ test, and yet you'll be an ignorant person with no wisdom. You know, you get in a car wreck, scramble your brain, it'll all be lost like that in a heartbeat. Wisdom can't be lost in a car wreck. Wisdom can't be lost in a stroke. Wisdom transcends and is antecedent to the bubble of life. One should not build up one's wealth within the bubble of empirical knowledge, i.e. intelligence, nor do I consider it important. It is helpful for this life. I mean, I will give you that. Of course, being intelligent is far more helpful than being unintelligent, but ultimately, no importance whatsoever, because that will all be lost when the bubble pops. That will be the signal that identifies as the signal, because eventually this radio and or the battery or both are going to fail, and everything's stored within here. It's going to poof, it's all gone. All that stuff you worked on, poof, it's gone. I hope I was able to clear up wisdom and intelligence metaphysically in a really simple, down-to-earth fashion, because I give no importance to intelligence. And I actually cringe. People say, God, you're so smart. You know, if I were an evil, intelligent person, because people that are really intelligent with no wisdom are evil, 99 times out of 100, I would think that would be awesome. Oh my God, they said I was smart. That's not important at all. I give no praise to intelligence. I hope I cleared that up. If I didn't, let me know. These are the limitations in English, unfortunately, since mind, brain, and consciousness are kind of linked together as one thing, and they are not in Greek, Sanskrit, or Pali. Nor should they be metaphysically, but that's the nature of the English language. Yeah. English language is not very conducive to the finer points of metaphysical nuance and the dialectic thereof. Those are not big words either, by the way. Not by me. People's like, your vocabulary is really big. Sometimes I want to say when people say this, like, maybe my vocabulary is not that big. Maybe your vocabulary is that small. Yeah. Oh, God. I cracked myself up.